Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud Native FM podcast. And today we actually renovated the concept of this channel. We try to do some webinar on developer experience. Last week, I think week from now, we actually did an episode with Brian on prioritizing and measuring developer experience. And now today I'm joined by one of my best friends from the CNCF ambassadorship community, Atul Priya, for some of these things we actually have been communicating over the past few years whether internally in the CNCF, what should be the approach in optimizing the developer experience. So I am Saim Safdur, host of this show. My name is, and I am a CNCF ambassador, and joining me this time, Atul Priya Sharma.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Sam, for having me here.
Thank you wonderfully. So let me give you some brief intro of myself and some of the things we're actually speaking about. I'm actually sharing our screen because we actually prepared our deck for today to go through what we're actually covering today. So the topic for today's discussion around how to enhance the developer experience. What could be the quest look like? What are the some best practices, strategies, and challenges associated with it? So give me some background into this. I started my career in 2016 as a front-end developer, and we have to wrestle a lot with a lot of the front-end technologies. And then we work with the APIs at the back end, and then we work with some sort of databases, and then the journey where it started here. So my job in 2016 was to actually create an operational team where I'm managing, where developers actually create new features into the production. And when the customers are using it, my job is to make sure those are seamlessly using without any interruption or downtime. So it's kind of a very sophisticated journey. We develop code locally, we're testing it out, and we're moving it all the way into the production with some sort of CI/CD pipeline setup. But that is back then in 2016, 2017, 2018. But today's world is basically we have so many opinionated approaches on how to set up infrastructure. And we are now dealing with infrastructure that causes a lot of pain for a lot of the developers. So over to you now, Atul. What's your journey so far into the tech, and what motivated you to invest time learning developer experience?
Sure. Thanks so much again, Sam, for having me here today. I think my journey started quite similarly to yours, and I have worn multiple hats over the decade-long journey that I've spent in the industry. I started as a manual tester back then, and my job was to, click buttons on websites and, see if they are working fine or not. And then, slowly progressed over the years into automation testing, got into a little bit of mobile app development before getting into this role of developer advocate at Infracloud. So I think one of the things that I had faced at different parts of my career and different roles, it was especially related to the developer experience part. What I have also seen is that every time I got into a new project or a new engagement, uh, there was a lot of hurdles right at the beginning of it. For instance, if I have to give an example, I was working on a mobile app development project, which was using Xamarin. So for all of you who don't know, Xamarin is a cross-platform mobile application framework, which is usually so you write it in C sharp, and then you basically creates the applications for Android and iOS as well. So initially, I felt it very nice that hey, I'm writing in one language and I'm still getting the builds or the actual applications for both the environments, and all I have to do is write in one language. So I think that whole starting was very good, that it's easier that I just have to learn one thing, and then it does it automatically. While the process was fun, the later stages or the other processes that were involved in it were quite different. For example, whenever you are building mobile applications, there is a lot of hurdle when it comes to validating or testing those applications. So when I built an application for, let's say, Android, I had about 5 to 7 different devices to test the application on. So I remember, connecting my device to my desktop, and every device, I had to connect every time and deploy the application and do it. So that wasn't a very good approach back then. I mean, if you ask me, in term, because there was a lot of hassle doing it. I have to run the same build, deploy it on different applications, and there was nothing like an over the air OTA updates that you call. So there was no way that I could publish the applications directly on the mobile devices. So I think, uh, from my point of view, there have been good and bad, both sort of developer experiences, being in that role. And I think that is what interested me to delve deeper into the whole DevOps landscape as well. Where you usually deal with a lot of gamut of tools. I mean, you also know that how many tools are there in the CNCF landscape, and it's virtually very difficult for anyone to learn or try all those tools. So that's where I think my interest was, that how could we minimize that, and which basically delved me into platform engineering aspects as well, which probably we would be discussing today.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So now, Atul, over to you now. So go ahead and let's give us a brief intro how the developer actually started developing code locally, and what are the challenges and how the flow look like.
Sure, sure. So I think, while I shared my experiences of, being a developer and understanding how things work, what I've been doing off late is, since I was involved in the whole platform engineering aspect of things and understanding how it actually benefits the, development teams and how it improves their productivity and experience. So, with all my learnings that I had, one of the things that I'm doing recently is platform engineering webinars. So I've been interacting with folks from the community and people, those who enterprises, those who have different products related to platforms, and which help build platforms and reduce load on developers. So these are some of the webinars that I've done on my company's Infracloud page. So we do a webinar every 2 weeks. So if you are interested, do join in on those webinars to learn more about platform engineering. So before I actually deep dive into the whole developer experience, I think I missed out on saying that outside of work, I'm a big time foodie and a travel blogger. So I try to relate every concept with food, because that is something that I enjoy, and I think it makes things easier to understand. So developer experience for me is similar to cooking. So building an application is similar to cooking a biryani, for example. So if you compare both of them, the development environment that you're using to build your application is equivalent to the kitchen where you are building, where you're, making your biryani. The ingredients that you use to make the biryani is essentially translates into the tools that you use to build your application. The recipes that you follow to make biryani, it basically translates to frameworks that you use and that guide you to build application. So what a cook is in the kitchen, a developer is in a development environment. And I think that pretty much sums up, if I have to tell anyone what is developer experience. So it's like walking into a kitchen to prepare a dish, and you finding the right ingredients that you need at the right place, you finding the right tools that you need, you find the right recipes that you need, and only when all these things gel together, you can make a perfect aromatic biryani. And exactly that feels the same for developing applications as well. Now, this whole journey actually is a very well defined stage. So anyone who is starting building application, you actually want to start with a blank canvas. So when you start, you often believe that, or hope that you are going to build an application or a module right from scratch. But then that doesn't happen most of the time. Most of the time when you start a new engagement, or start building something, it's essentially that there is something already built and you are making an enhancement on top of it. And what that does is that, as a developer, you need to look into the existing code base which is present, and that can be a daunting task, just to comprehend the context of what the code is written, why it is written, what it is doing. So right at the tip, the first point when you start building an application itself is a point for uh, your developer experience. So that's where it starts affecting you as a developer, that hey, okay, I'm looking at this code which is like thousands lines of code, and I have to go and make an enhancement in some particular module. So that is one point when it happens. Now if you move on from there, that okay, I figured out that this is where I need to make the change. The next bigger thing is to build or set up your development environment. Now this process itself is very complex, because now when you are doing this, you need to ensure that you have the right set of libraries or right dependencies that is required to build that particular project, and the code base basically, and then so that you can start building on top of it. So understanding the configuration settings that is required, or maybe talking about the build versions which is conflicting. So your pre-prod or prod might have a different version, and your development machine has a different version. So figuring out this entire thing is again a pain point, in the journey of a developer, because if you see till now, I've spoken about just two things, and we have not even started writing a code or executing a line of code. It is just that we are trying to understand, and just for understanding what is happening, we are taking a lot of cognitive load to just figure out what's going on around. So assuming that you have set up the dev environment with you, and next you actually start writing the code, and you are all happy that you have all the algorithms in place, all the DSA and lead code or whatever you practice, now you can implement while you are writing the module. And a lot of abstractions are done for you by the senior developers in the team. So all you have to do is probably call a function, pass some variables, you get a value, you format it, and probably you are done. But then imagine that you are someone from let's say Siam spoke about front end. So you are someone who is who understands what Next.js is, and suddenly you get you are building something which uses Vue.js, or it uses React.js, and you have absolutely no idea of how that works. So that itself will be the whole idea of dealing with an unfamiliar code or an unfamiliar framework itself. It might be that there are everyone in the team who works on Python, for instance, but Python itself has so many frameworks to build the front end that you as a developer might find it challenging, or there will be a very big, huge learning curve to even understand, learn that framework to start developing. Now, so that can be a very daunting task for a lot of people. And then, despite of all these challenges, we spoke about environments, we spoke about configurations, understanding the code base, learning about the new framework. Despite of all these challenges, the developer actually spends their time to build the application. They try to overcome all these hurdles. They try to overcome all these challenges, and then invest their time in building applications and solutions that they are destined to build. So if you see closely, if you just zoom out from this entire developer journey, the moment developers put their fingers on the keyboard, the challenge actually starts from there. And that is why it becomes really important to understand how we can address these challenges and make our developers more productive, and ensure that their experience of dealing with these various touch points are top notch, because in the end that affects the way your features are shipped, the way your applications are shipped, the way your developers feel overall, and the way eventually your customers will feel. So it all dials up to that particular part. So if you see here, this is a typical, part to production. So once the developer has built the application on their local, the next part is, taking it to, elevating it to different environments, and then finally moving it to production. So you see, there are so many steps involved here, and timeline which takes. So, immediately you would be doing, something about infrastructure or setting it up, figuring out security, adding access management controls in it. And then probably you would also be setting up things like monitoring. You want your apps to be monitored, and probably figuring out support engagements. And then as and when you progress towards production, there are a lot more other activities that are added in your portfolio as a developer. So if you see this again, it's only probably the first quadrant where you actually are writing the core logic of your application, but everything else in this image is an add-on task that you are doing. You need to probably understand how Grafana works, probably when you are integrating it, or if you want to instrument it, you need to know that as well, which basically is an is a cognitive load to it. So what we have done is, we did identify based on our interactions with the community members, with some of the clients we work with at Infracloud. We came up with the tenets that every platform should have. So we did realize, and it's universally also a lot of people agree that platforms are the next step, in next step ahead, that basically will help developers focus more on their task and take away a lot of load from them, away from them. So the whole idea of giving the perfect balance of you know abstraction and flexibility is where platform engineering comes in and where platforms come in. So if anyone is building a platform, your entire suite of services or the capabilities that you are providing should probably fall in these three buckets. So one is the develop bucket, the second is consume, and third is discover. So all the capabilities that your platform should offer related to develop is basically, these are the services that a developer uses to build their application. So it could be things like workload, because when they're building an application, they need to specify how their application would be, the entire not the architecture, but the specification for it. So where you define what image it is using, you define what are the ports, what is the network, XYZ. So you need something to define that. So things like that would fall into the develop category. Similarly, then there are services which are external, which are not mandatory with your application, but you consume them. So things like message queues or things like databases. Now these are services which you attach or plug into your application, and you consume those services. And lastly, there are some services which are available for you at your disposal, which basically help you discover more about your application or the infrastructure that you are building. So things like logging and monitoring tools, or things like incident management tools. These are the tools or services that fall in the discover category, which basically helps a developer or a team identify what is happening in their application or their infrastructure, and then take corrective action. So now, this is a snippet from the platform engineering reference architecture ebook that we have published, and this is just one part of it. That ebook contains a lot of things that will help you get started with your platform engineering journey. Now, when I spoke about these tenets, what happens is that when you actually translate these into platform, these all services again can be categorized as what you see in the image right now. So while the image seems relatively self-explanatory, so you have a platform team that is building the platform, and then you have different tools that allow developers and other folks to interact with your platform. So we have Backstage here, you have Terraform here, you can have a Cratix, you can have a port. So these are all the touch points where people interact with your platform from. And then underlying the backend, you have all these services. So you have infrastructure, which is it could be your cluster, or it could be the cloud that you're using. It can be services, deployment, databases, observability, for something related to developer experience. So it could be Dora metrics, or it could be templates that you create for them, and then security and governance. So if you see again, these would again fall back into the three tenets that I spoke earlier, and how this actually help when it comes to developer experience. So circling back to the entire stages that I spoke about, that every stage is a problem right from the time they touch the keyboard. So going back to the production journey that I had showed. So usually the initial step is manual. It is an inconsistent process where there are different environments that a developer has to configure to interact with, and then deploying the application to different environments itself is a hurdle. So how do we actually simplify that? So that is where you turn to automation. You turn to things like self-service options. So that is what this tool will offer. So for example, you see the infrastructure layer present in a platform. That is what is actually going to automate everything for you. So as a developer, I would probably just log on to my portal and say, probably click a few buttons and say, hey, I want a EC2 instance to be done. So I need not worry how that EC2 instance is provisioned. All I have to do is just click on a couple of buttons, and the platform will do that for me. So that is one less hurdle in my journey as a developer when I'm configuring an environment. Similarly, you can automate a lot of things through your CI/CD pipeline itself, which will guarantee consistency. It will also bring in a lot of standardization. So when you're working in a team, you need a standard that is followed so that it becomes easier for everyone to collaborate in the longer run. And then now that once you have set up the environment, the next challenge is the tool set. Like I spoke about the recipe and the biryani, if you don't have the right spices or right tools, you cannot make a proper biryani. And similarly, when you want to build an application, you need the right set of tools with you, and that can only be identified when you interact with your developers. You understand what your developers are actually using, the tools they are using, the frameworks that you're using, and then take that and provide it as a part of your platform. So this entire thing again comes as a self-service model. So for me, I don't have to, as a developer, I don't have to sit and find what tool to use to achieve a particular functionality. Instead, I will just log on to a platform and I'll look for the resources which will tell me, okay, for this, for like versioning, I'm going to use, you have to use GitHub, which is a standard that entire team uses. For scanning images, you will use a tool like Trivi. So I'm not spending time in identifying tools to achieve a certain functionality. Rather, my platform is already having all these details and it is pointing me to the right direction. So I'm saving a lot of time there because all things are present in front of me. The documentation is supplied with it. So again, not taking too much time on that. And then lastly, when you feel that all these things is where your battle is won, but then that's where your actual thing starts, which is essential, is the feedback. So while you have built everything for your developers, it is important for you to learn the actual things. Basically understand the feedback from your developers, how they feel after using your platform or after using the toolset that you have provided. So only when they give you a feedback, and when you work on that feedback, that is where you are thinking more about themselves and not more about you. Because when you are building a platform as a platform engineer or a platform engineering team, you think more about yourself, that okay, I know this, or I know Azure, let me provide Azure to them. But your development team might not be using Azure. So it's important for you to think about them, the developers who are your customers, rather than what you think, what you want to do. So I think with that, I'll pass it on back to Saim, to give his inputs on, how to think more about them and not more about them, themselves.
Great. Thank you very much, Atul. Hope I'm audible and everybody able to hear me correctly. And please let me know if any glitches into my sound or anything. Do let me know as well. And wonderfully well spoken by the Atul for what are the challenges we are actually facing as of today. And it's very clear now with the conjunction of tooling and the roadmap we currently have. As he mentioned during his conversation, like developer is now currently dealing with infrastructures in their code. We trying to do too much of the thing into the shift left approach. So in order to go into the production side of thing, I think this one picture very clearly indicates how your environment is actually stood up today. You actually using Kubernetes clusters, and then you actually have some sort of CNIs, CRIs, CSIs, and ingress and load balancers, and then secret stores, and then you have Prometheus Grafana for observability, tracing and troubleshooting, and then you end up residing on some APIs point and some CRDs. There is hell a lot of journey in here. So in order to efficiently move your steps from uh, coding to the production, or idea to the concept to the finance to the production, you have to deal with those kind of challenges. So now I try to think about, and I try to move a conversation into the another angle that's called organizational hurdles. As already Atul wonderfully well spoken about what is the challenges developers are facing and why is it so. And the first point, the developer asking, why is actually developer is actually going through this pain? That is we already understand with the conversation from Atul. I'm trying to understand like how the organizational hurdle affects the developer experience, or a developer experience journey for the developers and the platform team as well. So I think that the developers are the very curious creature. They're very talented, hardworking people. Whenever they come up with an idea, they want to execute it on the fly. And when you put hurdles in front of them, he feels frustrated. and then do not see the value of his work. And in some cases, organization doesn't able to retain, or retention policies is difficult, meaning a skilled individual might leave the company because of some hurdles in the developer experience mode, because he want to try out something as well. So I think in the previous few episode on this show, I have invited some of the very good guests from VMware Tanzu team, to some Sky TV, to some, I think, some other wonderful guests who have 20 years of experience building out the platform. And we try to understand this principle of diffusion of innovation. So what is diffusion of innovation means? So I think what is generally mean is that the different people in your organization are going to accept change in different ways. So why this is so, and what are the changes we're actually talking about today? What are the different changes journey? And I think this picture is clearly dictates, like any time we move up the ladder, there is a technological innovation happening all the time. You have one ingress controller, and tomorrow you have came up with another ingress controller. You have working with Prometheus and Grafana, might there come up a Loki in the stack. Then you have service meshes. Today we are Istio Linkerd. Might we have come up another is service mesh. So you need to bottle and wrestle up with the tooling, which one suits well for my organization and which scenario. That's where a concept of diffusion of innovation comes in. What this generally means is that when different people in your organization are going to accept change in different ways, which makes sense, right? Because some of us are very conservative, and some of them are, very risk averse, and other are much more kind of willing to take new things on and accept that it might not work well for the companies, and the companies has all of the different individual working on them. So I think the theory tells you that if fusion of innovation is that how do we separate those people in a couple of different groups. So we have early adopters who accept the change necessarily and who want to live in the bleeding edge, so they accept the change necessarily. So those are called early adopter, and some of those are not early adopter, and they are again very similar. They see the benefit in technology, and then they try to move it and try to adopt it. So in a vehicle of change, they try to jump on board together. And that, I think, 15% of the populace within the organization represent the early adopter, but other are not accepting change as those 15% have accepted it. So 10 to 15% of the organization using the new tool, then it kind of stops the adoption, and that adoption rate just necessarily stops. So they struggle to get the rest of their organization to step into the new technology, and they start using it. For them, the 85% or the 65 of the ratio within the organization are risk averse. They are not going to accept some of the risk that the early adopter did. So what do they do? What do we do? Well, the first thing is we need to build that momentum from early adopters to show that we have solved a lot of the problem, that we have ironed out, like our onboarding process, like our day one process, that we have a great level of support in place, and we get little sound bites from those people to help us sell the platform to the rest. The key thing is we need to be able to demonstrate that this one thing has value. You should give up your own tool for this and for that reason. So I think in essence, for this early adopter and the division innovation principle, so we know that the developer experience hinges on acknowledgement that the human element and embracing skills beyond technical expertise, encompassing aspects such as marketing, sales, and customer services, to ensure a seamless and satisfies journey for the developers. So I try to conclude this one part of the conversation is on the organizational hurdle journey, we have different innovators within the company. Those are early adopters who accept the change rapidly, and those who are not accepting the change as other 15% do. What you have to do, you have to keep up the momentum. You have to tell them that this technology brings in this new stuff that is already not in the previous stage, and it causes hurdle. And in order to remove that uh, laziness or flakiness in the developer acceleration, why we are switching to another tool. So we spoke about up till now for the last 5 minutes why the developer, the division of innovation is help out on this, and how we actually separate out early adopter versus people who are risk averse. Now, in that conjunction, me and Atul and other people work on the CNCF platform working group. We came up with two paper last year that's called platform definition white paper, and we have a diagram similar to this because we know in the platform we have different capabilities. Some are interfaces, APIs, UIs, or some plugins, and then we have a capabilities. Capabilities are list of open source tool plus feature set that developers need in order to make them job more clearer, visible, and we can support and value their work. So me and Atul work on the first white paper way back in, I think, I think Amsterdam time. We actually published a first paper that's called Cloud Native Platform Definition White Paper. All it says to all the CEOs, stakeholders, developers, and platform engineering, what the platform essentially does is, and how does this conjunction with the developer experience. And then we come up to the another stage, and we actually launch another paper that's called platform maturity model for the organization to understand like how the different services work in there, what should be available on those services, and what should be the meeting criteria for the developer team to start using those capabilities. So we rolled out those two white paper, one in Amsterdam, one in Chicago, and that's already available on tagappdelivery.cncf.io/white paper/platform. And another link is platform maturity model. So if you go there, you can actually click on the link and start reading it out. And we're also working on these days is around platform as a product approach. And that the skill matrix is really vital to what Atul described previously in his conversation and what I described in the diffusion of innovation principle. Some are skilled individuals within our organization. They pretty much be a cutting edge technology. Whenever they see a new innovation happening in this space, they try to experiment. They try to understand what is the value of this approach compared to what I already been using in my production setup. So he tried to move some of the hurdles he or she currently facing with the new innovation that happening in that takes place. So those are, once again, I'm saying, as an early adopter, and those skills get matches with a different. Some of your people, employees working in organization, doesn't understand the what the hell Terraform is. They might know do not know what it is, how to work in Kubernetes, how to write code in Python. But some are innovator in this space. So it's if you order to build up the momentum, in order to more skill, more individual, you have to increase the numbers and the numbers of who are not actually well versed with the new technologies as well. So Girish on the thanks, Girish, for your good comments on the platform engine on the chat. Let us know if you have any question. Looking forward to hear your thoughts on this as well. Glad to see you on the chat. So now we have a skill matrix in place. So in order to move, and that's where division of innovation helps necessarily. But I think what the vision of innovation is actually works very well is on the communication style. And one of the things I recently learned while working with some of the talented folks in this community who talks about the Conway's law. And is all this tells you, all it says, that the way that your company communicates will have an impact on the product your company produces. And in these diagrams, what I'm trying to depict is, I think it will be a very good strategy if you make all of your stakeholder working within the organization, make them in one umbrella. Either those are CSIOs, developers, platform engineer, DevOps engineer, sales enablement people, or even the marketing people. Let them on board. Make a space that everybody can sit on one room, and then give them a sticky note and ask them what the one problem you are continuously facing every day, and let them stick them on this board and evaluate what the one thing that everybody continuously struggle to find a solution for, and then realize what what are those sticky notes that's written approval, that's required approval, or approval is written on their sticky notes, and then move up from here. And if you find there are some things, there are more approvals in the sticky notes, that's mean there's one thing is missing, the communication gap happening all the time. So all these activities is actually requires you to understand how you effectively communicate within the organization for a common set of challenges that everybody is facing. So I think that would be a wonderful strategy to understand what one thing that everybody is facing a challenge, and let's try to work a developer experience to solve this challenge for. And now I try to replicate my, try to from move up this conversation to once again on the Conway's law, that all it says that the way your companies communicate will have an impact on the end product that your company produces. So if your communication is siloed and doesn't work, you will find your products are generally siloed and are not very well integrated. So you need to think about changing your communication to change your product. So platform as a product piece is very critical here. So treat your internal consumers and customers. Whatever we do in teams, we need to think about ourselves as the little business that has customer associated with, which means we are serving the customer's need. So if our customer aren't happy with what we are doing, we are probably doing the wrong thing. And I think for the smaller organization and startup, DevEx developer experience plays a crucial role in achieving rapid innovation and market fit. As organizations grow, prioritizing developer experience become instrumental in driving business performance through improved engineering efficiency, enhanced product quality, and increased employee retention. While measuring developer productivity holistically remains a challenge, prioritizing and measuring developer experience provide a proven pathway to building high performing organization. So understanding the significance of developer experience, leader can create an environment that foster developer productivity and propels their organization towards success. So with that, I move up back to Atul and let us know, with all the conversation we have done so far, what are the key takeaways from this discussion so far?
Absolutely. I think, one of the very good things that you brought to the discussion was the organizational aspect to it. And I really like the diffusion of innovation concept that you told all our viewers today. Because, like you said, every organization has a different speed at a different pace where everyone actually adopts a new technology. So I think we had a very, insightful discussions from two different viewpoints. Me sharing my experiences from a developer standpoint, that how I as a developer or the community of developers see things when they are building applications. And you really pointed out nicely from the organization's perspective that what are the hurdles. So we did have a complete 360-degree picture. of what are everything that affects the developer productivity. So I think if you have to ask me about three key takeaways, I think obviously one of the things that I would like to highlight here is that we need to empower our developers on the entire stage, right from development to production. So both me and Sam spoke about the whole path to production, and I think that is what we need to highlight as well. That is one of the key takeaways, that you help your developers right from the start till the end. Secondly, listening to what your developers are feeling is very critical. You take the feedback from them and understand whether they are feeling happy about working, about using the tools, about just about doing everything around their day to day work. And again, like Sam pointed out, not only from a developer's point of view but from an organization point of view, get everyone into a room and ask them what their problem is, so at a larger level you are addressing that problem. And I think last but not the least, the developer experience and platform engineering are very closely interrelated. And that is where both me and Sam have been contributing to the working group at CNCF, and also, learning and sharing our knowledge about platform engineering. So, that is the three key takeaways from my side, Sam.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you as well. And looking forward to an awesome chat on this YouTube as well. And if you have any question related to this, do let us know as well. So, as Atul prescribed from the beginning how the developer journey started, and in his key takeaways, he spoke about that platform engineering and developer experience is actually have a very much unification or intersection between both of them. So I try to see the platform engineering is start with your advocacy for consumer of your platform. So meet where they are with smooth developer experience, guide them on standardizing infrastructure tooling for reducing the cognitive load, and add extension point as and when they want to transform based on the feedback they provide, and all this for accelerated software delivery. So with that definition, it's inevitable to understand that developer experience is critical for businesses to be successful in their digital transformation. So value stream map the journey for a piece of code going from an idea through finance into production, and all steps included. I think it's vital for an organization to work out. Take a step back from the tools and think about people, what their challenges look like, and how we try and make their lives better. So people are key in all of this. So with that, I will go over to our last slide where you can actually how you can meet us. So if you want to meet me, I'm organizing a Kid City Islamabad, and also I have a webinar right after 15 minutes from now on Score, and that's happening today. And you can join me on the channel as well. And in Tag App Delivery, we're doing some wonderful work. Please check that out. And my friend Atul is going into the KubeCon, and he has some wonderful stock on there. So there are some wonderful ways to meet with Atul in person, and he will let you know how.
Sure, absolutely. I think so. If any one of you are visiting KubeCon, I would be a part of the platform engineering panel that is happening at the Red Hat OpenShift Commons Gathering, which is a co-located event that is happening on March 19th. And I would be sharing the stage with some of the most well-known folks in the platform engineering community, Leon, Thomas, Mauricio, along with Karina as well. So that would be, a very good, insightful discussion around platforms. Also, like I said at the start of the webinar, that I'm also conducting platform engineering webinars regularly. So we had one yesterday. We would be having one on the 13th of March as well. So you can check out or register for the upcoming webinars on infracloud.io/webinars. And virtually, you can reach out to me on Twitter at the Tech Maharaj, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Thanks a lot. And I will definitely call out that There are some links available in the chat, and you can grab it from the screen as well. And do check out some of the webinar that my friend is doing. He's doing some incredibly wonderful work for educating the community, and also some wonderful crafted content as well. So with that, I hope you enjoy the conversation, and I believe with the conversation we have, that's sparked some more question into your mind, and you have filled with so many questions. I know, I literally know, because we have both been into that situation. And you can ask us on Twitter, X, on LinkedIn, CNCF Slack channel, or on parallel Slack channel, or wherever we actually been accessible. So hit us out. Let us know what your thoughts on developer experience, and what's your organization challenges while enhancing the developer experience within the organization, for internal developers and for the consumer of the platform as well. With that, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will be meeting soon again on this channel with another webinar style conversation. And hope you enjoyed that as well. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.